Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Dorothy here from the CCMA. You're very welcome to our webinar this afternoon. On screen, you'll see Neve from WSI, Daniela from TELUS, and Richard from Poly. So hi to everybody. As always, we're just going to give a couple of minutes for everybody to log in. Our topic this afternoon, I think, is a very interesting one because I know I've been asked this question a lot by different member companies. What are the best channels for customer service during the COVID-19 pandemic? And as we know, we're going to be remote working for a good while more by the looks of things currently. So we have certainly seen some member companies switch channels or add new channels as we've gone through the pandemic. And I think the idea this afternoon is that Richard and Daniela are going to share their experience and their insights on this topic in terms of what channels, what's appropriate, how people are reacting to them. But also, I think always knowing, and I think this is a given, that for customer experience, the voice channel will always be crucial, and that will be a channel that will continue to be of huge importance to all contact centres going forward. So I'm going to hand over. Before I do, I'll give the official introductions for Richard and Daniela. So Richard has spent nearly 20 years in the telecommunications and contact centre industry, and he is the Senior Contact Centre Product Marketing Manager with Poly, previously known as Plantronics, as you will all know. And Daniela is Director of Operations and Site Lead for TELUS International, with an extensive background in the online operations in the tech industry in Ireland. And as those of you also will all know, TELUS was formerly known as VoxPro. So we've interesting connection between the two companies, which is great. So Richard, I know we're going to have a chat. As always, we're open to any questions that people would like to send through, and I'll put them to Richard and Daniela as we go along. And as always, we're recording the webinar, so it will be available at a later stage for you to download or share with colleagues and friends. So hand over to Richard. Thanks a million.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Dorothy, and good afternoon, everyone. So as Dorothy said, today we're going to be looking at the channels for customer service and customer experience. Now, what we've seen is that digital mediums like email, social media, and chat have been an increasingly popular communication channel for call centres during the coronavirus pandemic. According to Illuminati, 55% of self-service instances eventually escalate to voice interactions with CSRs. As CX becomes more vital to business success, demand will continue to increase for a diverse set of tools that helps agents communicate clearly and efficiently. That's a quote from Robin Garis, the president of Illuminati's research. So what we're going to do today is that Daniela and myself are going to be just sort of discussing the best channels for customer service during the COVID-19 pandemic. There aren't any slides today. We've been trying to figure out what we call this, whether it's a panel discussion or whether it's a fireside chat. It feels cold enough to get the fire going at the moment, so we'll probably stick with the fireside chat. Covering three different areas: effectiveness of different CX channels through coronavirus, first-hand experiences from TELUS International who've gone through this change, and key tactics that call centres are taking to optimise the channels that they're using. You'll notice there's no slides, it's just Daniela and myself talking, and as Dorothy said, feel free to put any questions in onto this, and Dorothy will interrupt us and fire those questions away as we go through as well. So welcome, Daniela. Welcome today.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you all for having me today.
Okay, cool. We'll go straight in because Dorothy's done the introductions for us already.
Yeah.
What I wanted to do, Daniela, is sort of start you off with a nice question to go and look at which channels have you been able to offer through the pandemic, and which channels have customers wanted to use? Has there been a difference between what you've been able to offer and what the customers wanted, for example?
Yeah. Well, across many of our accounts where a multi-channel or even better, an omni-channel strategy is used, we have observed in general no material shift in volume distribution across the various channels once the pandemic and the lockdowns kicked in. However, said in general, because this varies significantly based on the line of business or industry that we support. So, for example, we've seen a noticeable impact in specific industries like e-commerce, where chat and social media, where we use this, we support these channels, have seen the biggest spike in volume, especially when no alternative live support channel like phone, for example, was provided. And in a small percentage of chats, for instance, our reps used email sometimes to follow up where needed to tie over a chat conversation that span across many topics. And this switch may also have happened to voice in cases where our reps recognized that the chat was really not the optimal channel to resolve more complex issues. And based on our experience through our frontline team members, but also various studies on the topic, we observed that really the vast majority of customers or users think that human interaction is still important when interacting with a brand, especially during specific stages of the customer journey. So whilst the coronavirus may have accelerated consumer use of digital and automated channel, the long-term future looks to be more like a blended customer service experience, where customers choose different channels to get support based on the type of issue or query they have at hand. And while simple tasks will be automated more and more, complex issue will still require the human touch that has grown in importance during this crisis. And I think it will continue to grow as the expectations from customers increase in terms of customer experience.
Brilliant. And for those of you sort of watching now, I don't have the Giro d'Italia on in the background, really. It's just a celebration that voice and human interaction is still important, which is obviously important to us as a company.
For sure.
Okay. Sort of looking at the next question then, it's sort of really clear there, no material shift in general, but huge shifts, for example, on certain industries. If I look at the channels that you've been able to offer over the last 6 months, did the channels that you offer depend on where the employees are? So for example, have you been able to offer voice 24/7 where employees have been working at home, or have you had to move people to digital?
Yeah, we had some very practical examples, not only globally, but also specific in Ireland, about contracts where we weren't able to support voice due to unsociable hours of operations, which were not practical to implement in a private environment outside of the office. So some of our team members, like many worldwide, found themselves living in living circumstances that made it impossible for them to support customers through voice during the night. So in one of these teams, for the portion of the team that wasn't able to offer customer service late at night, we shifted those resources to provide chat support, for example, which until that point in this specific example I'm referring to was not a channel offered to support this line of business. Something that we observed also through other clients and interaction with other customers is that as the epidemic really exploded globally, also the customers' expectations have changed and adapted. And customers were conscious of the fact that the reps they were going to talk to were now working from their homes, and therefore they were much more tolerant also to switch to a less preferred channel for some types of interaction where they would have preferred voice rather than chat.
Yeah, I think that's been quite common globally. There's a feeling of we're all in this together. And it would be interesting as we go through the different stages to see if that changes or see if any customer frustration comes through that they're in a different situation now that sort of lockdowns are being treated locally.
Yeah, okay. Probably the tolerance level will change as well.
Yeah, downwards, unfortunately. So if I look at those different channels that you've been able to implement, have you seen any difference in customer satisfaction levels across those different channels?
We have seen that the customer satisfaction levels pretty much stayed in line with pre-COVID trends, with live channels like phone and chat continuing to score higher than non-live as earlier, as pre-COVID. As I said, the frustration of users and customers may have experienced, for example, due to longer wait times for phone support as a consequence of reduced capacity on that channel, was so far counterbalanced by the empathy created during the live interaction, where we had our rep and customer really bond and create a strong rapport thanks to the situation we're all into. But I think that the trends in terms of live channels also been a preferable channel for customers will continue, because it provides them with just a faster and quicker response than more asynchronous channels.
I love that. The empathy that you build up during a live conversation counteracts any long hold times. I think I've just found a new blog title there, just in that statement. Excuse me. So that's kind of covered really the effectiveness of those different channels that you've been able to offer there. And again, the sort of faster and quicker element of a live interaction comes through pretty strongly there. That's what we hear consistently globally as well. Mm-hmm. So if I look at your sort of first-hand experiences from the last 6 months, what have you learned from the last 6 months that has changed the way that you work permanently?
I think that going through this experience has had a profound impact on the way we work, and also challenged a few somewhat limiting beliefs that we had pre-crisis. And I think that's something great, has a great silver lining of the whole experience. Based on the successful transition of thousands of team members worldwide to working from home, TELUS International has actually used this challenge as an opportunity to develop solutions that enable partners, current or future, to set up programs remotely from scratch. So that's how our Work Anywhere solution was developed, leveraging our technical capabilities and also our experience in the past 6 months to provide a full-on, rounded solution for our clients. And this is basically moving the conversation from remote work seen as a business continuity plan to remote work seen as business as usual, which is obviously now part of the service offerings from TELUS International. And there have been also a number of learnings during the work from home deployment, one of them being that we have now proven our ability to create a secure work at home solution using technology to meet our clients' requirements in terms of security, which, as we know, is one of the major concerns in relation to the work from home model. And another important learning for us has been adapting our internal communication channels, in this case, to the new reality of a dispersed workforce. Without the natural day-to-day interactions occurring in the office, we had to learn other ways to connect to our team members to ensure important information reached everyone, regardless of where they were working. And through this experience, we understood the importance really of choosing the right communication medium at the right time and for the right type of interaction. And we included these insights into our standard operating procedures that allows us to scale these learnings and these best practices across our global business.
Wow, that's probably a huge amount of learning in 6 months. It's probably more than any organization has planned for in the entire life. But I kind of love the idea of, you called it business as usual. It's not. I don't think it's going to be that for a while. I think we're calling it business as unusual. And you can see, I think it was Frost and Sullivan said that, before COVID, 2% of employees worked at home in the call center industry. We went up to almost 50% globally during the height of the pandemic, and we're probably going to settle at 15 to 20% of employees working remotely once it's over. So that to me seems like a big one, and I love your idea there of it's kind of taken away those limiting behaviors. It's forced you to think differently and say, okay, what did we not do before? What can we, and you know, that was maybe a silly reason why we couldn't do that before. Now we know we can go down this route and accelerate our business by offering something new for our customers. And I love the idea of the internal communications, about being purposeful about those internal communications as well, and making sure that, you know, you used to think, okay, we'll put it up on the board, everyone will see it. Now, okay, no, I've got to be very purposeful and make sure everyone sees it.
Yeah, and deliberate also. That's another word in that regard.
So when you've sort of gone through this obviously very intensive learning schedule in the last 6 months, have you identified any skills shortages across your teams or your employees or your entire workforce based on those COVID impacts?
Yes, for sure. I think that the sudden transition to a remote work system or model really forced the vast majority of our leaders to operate in a remote environment for maybe the first time in their careers, which in some cases posed challenges, and I would argue here for the better again. Because not being able to manage by presence, leaders were pushed to shift their behavior towards a more modern or advanced leadership style, if we want to say so, where the focus is all on output rather than presenteeism. So for me, this has been a very positive impact of COVID, highlighting and bringing to the forefront some leadership deficiencies and offering also an opportunity for fast growth in our company leaders. And also where changes in support channels were required, as in the example I mentioned earlier. It was for us, it was necessary for us to train our phone support reps, for example, on chat, which requires different ways of handling customer interactions and so forth. And again, this has been a great opportunity for us to expand the skill set and the experience of our workforce.
That's a really good point there. I kind of, when I put some of these questions together, I looked at that one as an idea of, you know, are the employees missing any skills? I hadn't thought that's a really good point there, that the leadership is also missing some skills potentially, and especially that whole, let's not manage our workforce by presence. Let's not look for backsides on seats. Let's sort of, you know, look at how, including everybody remotely as well. That's a really good point to call out there for people. And managing by output rather than by presence. You'd think by now in the call center we've got, you know, output measurements nailed. If there's one place in an organization that can do it, it's us.
For sure.
Okay, brilliant. That's kind of the sort of really sort of looking at the sort of first-hand experiences then. And what I want to look at now is sort of the next stage, is the tactics that you're taking to optimize some of those channels. And the sort of leading question here is, what's the biggest change that has or is driving a need to optimize channels? Is it more calls, more complexity, home working? What's the biggest factor here?
I can see two main drivers here, one being technology and the other customer expectations. We're very lucky in the fact that the majority of our clients already operate through digitalized systems. Therefore, in most cases, the tools and systems used in the office have been seamlessly shifted to a remote work model. But while many of our clients adopt a multi-channel approach to customer experience, there's still a lot of work to be done to persuade them, more reticent clients, to embrace the more advanced omni-channel system. That are going to be, these systems are going to be more and more in need in order to meet the increasingly high expectations of the modern customer. So it's no longer acceptable to customers to have a labored experience when trying to get support, like not finding the right information in a help center or struggling to get in touch with a brand, and then being bounced around maybe from one channel to the other until reaching a person that can finally solve the problem, potentially after having asked the customers for the nth time to explain the issue. And this is where technology comes to the rescue, by connecting those various touch points in the customer journey to create a clear profile of the customer, which is then at the fingertips of our reps. regardless of where those touch points took place. And this will allow our agents to provide a more personalized experience and solution, which is definitely going to strengthen the customer's bond and loyalty to the brand, and by providing that effortless experience. And with the technology advancement in the field of AI and machine learning, human experience will become scarcer and therefore more valuable. And this means that our reps will need to be able to not only use this technology in the right way, but also, most importantly, leverage those touch points as moments and opportunities to bring in that warmth, the warmth of a human interaction to complement the efficiency provided by technology. And this will ensure that customers feel that connection to the brand rather than just being an object of a transaction. So those are the two main things for me.
That's, yeah, there's a lot to sort of pick apart there, but the one thing that stood out for me is that for years we've been talking about omnichannel. I think I was presenting on it back in about 2011, 2012. And it's surprising to see that COVID could be the kick that moves organizations to omnichannel. Because, okay, we've had to invest, we've moved people home, okay, we've got to manage them differently, we've let them off the leash a little bit, and we've got to now invest in technology to help them work at home. We might as well go to that next stage of customer experience management, not just sort of being a call center. It's that whole omni-channel approach for organizations.
Yeah, it's been like, it's really been the catalyst of a lot of positive change, I feel.
Okay. So if you've got the sort of omni-channel approach, how are you moving customers between channels? Are you sort of shaping the demand in different ways, or are you following the customer?
I mean, it's not rare that customers select the least optimal channel or channel type for their interaction with a brand. And for me, it's really important that customer experience reps recognize this quickly, so they are able to correct course before the customer starts getting frustrated with the whole experience. In order to make the best and most intelligent use possible of the technology at our disposal, and it's really important for me to escalate service appropriately and move customers from one channel to the other as we deem it necessary. So, for instance, self-service can be offered using sophisticated AI chatbots to answer common questions, give information about accounts, orders, and so forth. But if a customer can get their needs met via self-service, it's essential that that interaction is escalated to the right agent at the right time. And escalations must happen seamlessly. And it's really important that all the context from that previous interaction remains intact. And basically, the agent and customer continue where the bot left off. And this can and should also happen cross-channel, where, for example, an email interaction is becoming too complex with lots of back and forths that are creating frustration on the customer side. And in these cases, it's advisable to shift to a live channel like voice in order to simplify the conversation, provide a faster solution, and overall a more frictionless experience.
Yeah, on a sort of personal level, I'm a little skeptical of AI's capabilities at the moment. All my own personal experiences have been pretty poor on AI. So I like the idea of a seamless escalation that retains the context, but I'd kind of weight it towards escalating quickly these days. Yes, bots are going to get better. AI is going to get better very quickly. But at the moment, I'm still not convinced it's fully ready for prime time on anything other than sort of simple operations.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've looked there at sort of the customers moving between channels, and the opposite side of that almost is the moving of staff between different channels. So are you looking here at having to retrain people, look at different hiring practices as you see that shift a little bit towards digital? You know, how are you moving staff between channels as well?
Yeah. the fact that digitalization has really expanded the number and types of channels that customers can use to get in touch with a brand means that also the skill set and the roles in the company have evolved, so that we're able to cater for these needs. So as customers shift towards social channels, for example, like WhatsApp or social media support, we have created roles that allow us to meet those needs. So for example, social media is an extremely delicate channel where customers expect really fast responses, and the risk of negative content going viral and damaging the brand is extremely high. And for this reason, we have teams that are trained and specialized on this channel, as the appetite for it continues to grow, so the number of the team members working on these channels will grow. In general, in multi-channel accounts, we tend to utilize our workforce across more than one channel in order to allow us to be nimble based on incoming volumes, and so that we can also optimize capacity. But and this approach is only possible if the workforce is cross-trained in various support channels to allow flexibility from a workforce management point of view, and also a more multifaceted experience for our team members. However, for some particular channels like social media that I just mentioned, we really prefer to have dedicated team members that are trained on this specific channel, and they're specialized and only focused on this channel, just to give an example.
Yeah, I know in the past we've kind of swung between the sort of the employee that does every single channel, and then there's the specialists that only work on one particular channel because of a certain skill set. So it's kind of good to see us coming back to that mostly blended approach. But I like your idea of social media being called a delicate channel out there that needs a little bit of handling differently.
Yeah.
Okay, we are a few minutes from the end here. So what I wanted to do was first of all say thank you, Daniela. It's been really insightful to get the answers coming through to you today, and really good to chat to you. And also to open it up back up to Dorothy to see if there's any questions come through from the audience whilst we've been talking.
Yeah, a couple of questions I'll just share with you now. Sorry, I'm just coming back on screen, guys. And just to say, I have actually had experience in the last couple of days thinking I was getting organized doing some Christmas shopping of a leading retailer in Ireland that I was so frustrated with trying to use the chat channel, really, you know, cut and paste template responses. And then when I eventually rang, and I appreciate people are working from home, it was like, you know, you just have to keep trying. If the payment won't go through or the process won't follow, there's absolutely, you know, we're here, we're answering the phone, but there's actually nothing we can do, which I think is difficult for the people answering the phone, because if there's nothing else that they can do, okay, they can show empathy, which is appreciated, but if they can't actually do anything to help with the problem, it's frustrating for the customer, and I'm sure it's frustrating for them too, you know, which is a challenge for everybody. So the first one I was going to ask was about, you know, other channels. Are there other channels, future channels that are being looked at that none of us have even thought of now that maybe companies should be thinking about or looking at?
Well, I see, for example, in specific type of teams that I work with, where we do, for example, technical troubleshooting. I see video conferencing, video calls as something that can really help in situations where you have a product, maybe a physical product in a house, and you're trying to help the person out. And sometimes it can be very complicated to do it even over phone if you can't see what the customer or the user is doing on the other side. So I've been championing personally for those type of tech support roles, also video calls as an extra tool to allow us to help our customers in a more efficient and less frustrating way, right? I think that also channels like WhatsApp, which is already used, is going to grow and continue to be embraced also by other companies, just because it gives that immediacy of reaching a person on the phone. And we know that it's part of our body, basically. It's never far from us, and it allows that flexibility of I look at it when I can, but at the same time it's very easy to use, and it's literally at your fingertips as a user or a customer. And potentially, I see also self-service solutions grow even more. Like we saw that as a macro trend. That's been a macro trend in the customer experience industry for a few years now. The fact that customers really enjoy and prefer in many cases to find a solution themselves. And I see, for example, like the building and continuous optimization of help centers being something that our contact center employees are going to work more and more on, as well as U2U platforms, so user to user, where we have been involved as moderators rather than actually give the answers. Is the users that and customers that help each other, and I see this grow as well as a channel for customers.
I think the big one for me, Dorothy, is video. When we look at customer satisfaction by channel, voice is top in any measure we look at, but the only one that anecdotally is coming close to going above that is actually video, just in terms of that proper face-to-face empathy generation. And you know, it's really been a sort of niche offering so far. Some of the heavy financial guys are doing it, but we think that's going to come through more and more for people.
Yeah, I mean, there's advertising programs here for pension consultants, etc., to have a video meeting with them. And I know we had an event with our webinar with Virgin earlier in this the last couple of months, where they were using it, particularly during the lockdown, for service engineers who couldn't go into people's homes. That all of the communication and the resolution and the technical support was by video. I'm conscious of time, but I'll just put out one last question, which is about the different channels. And sometimes there's a perception that employee demographics will determine which channel they work best on. And I think one of the advantages, going back to the earlier discussion, in terms of the increase in remote working and the likelihood that it's here to stay for a while, for a reasonable percentage. So it's opening up a new labour pool that perhaps hasn't been tapped into previously. So just a very quick question to both of you: do you think employee demographics do really matter depending on which channel they're working on?
Do you want to take that, Richard, or do you want me to jump on?
Yeah, I'll give a quick answer first of all. I think the only impact it might have is that the younger generations may not have a dedicated space at home to work in. So they might be fighting for space on a kitchen table. They might be balancing a laptop on a chair in the parents' back room. So there might be certain situations where they can't do voice if they are in a lockdown situation. But in general, no, I think we are seeing technology be pretty accessible to most people. My parents can use WhatsApp pretty freely these days, and I imagine that we can pretty much train people to use any type of technology that's available. The characteristic that people want is empathy, and you either have that or you haven't. So it doesn't really matter the demographics of it. But apart from that sort of external limiting factor of whether someone's got a space to work, no, I don't think we're seeing a particular demographic suit a channel. Great.
Daniela, do you want to give a very quick answer?
Yeah, super quick. I agree with him. I agree with the fact that, yes, the younger demographics are generally more familiar with digital platforms and systems and solutions, but I think that also other demographics are acutely aware of what digital transformation will mean and how they need to continue also to evolve their roles and skill set to be relevant in the market. So yeah, I think there's not going to be a major divide there.
Great. Well, can I say thank you very much from behalf of myself and the CCMA, and as always, thanks to Richard and the team and Polly, who have been an ongoing and constant support of the association in Ireland, and we really, really appreciate it, especially at these difficult times for all. And obviously, Danielle, thanks once again for getting involved in today's session, and thanks to Niamh. Just to remind you, the recording of the webinar will be available, hopefully this time tomorrow. And just to remind everybody, with two really good webinars coming up in the next couple of days. We have a free yoga session tomorrow at 12:30 for anybody who can take it as part of their lunch break, 30 minutes. So the details are on the website. And then on Friday, I think a really important discussion on mental health. And we have Jennifer McCartney of PayPal, who's going to talk about supporting employees with mental health, during this difficult period, but also on an ongoing basis. And she's a trained psychologist, so I think that'll be a really good Ask the Expert event. So hopefully those of you who are online would like to join that, just register, all the details are there. So thanks a lot once again. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Daniela. Thanks, Niamh, as always, and hope to see you all again soon. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.